on News Hour tonight. Kano accident survivors recount horror journey. Rising violence fuels fears of humanitarian collapse, food crisis. NDLEA uncovers 9.3 billion naira Hajj drug ring, intercept illicit substance in Rivers raid. And on the foreign scene, Gaza civilians call for ceasefire as crisis deepens. Hello and welcome to News Hour on Trust TV. I am Dorcas Yakubuzala. 9 Kano State athletes, survivors of the deadly road crash that claimed the lives of their teammates while returning from the 22nd National Sports Festival, are currently receiving treatment at the Murtala Muhammad Specialist Hospital in Kano. The victims, mostly kickboxers and wrestlers, recount the horrifying moment their journey of celebration turned into a nightmare. Trust TV's Abdulaziz Ibrahim visited them at the hospital and our reports.
Now battling for recovery on hospital beds, the survivors are trying to piece together how joy gave way to trauma in an instant. The Kano State kickboxing team to the 22nd National Sports Festival won 3 silver medals and 2 bronze medals for the state. Aminu Idris, the captain of the team, describes how a joyful journey back home turned into a nightmare.
Oh God, we've been cheering inside the car with friends and family because we take ourselves like one family. We cheer, we chase everything, we laugh together, but unfortunately, this is the end of what has happened.
Adebowale Francis, another survivor and member of the kickboxing team, recalls what he can from the horrifying crash.
So it was like after the driver overtakes a trailer, just on a normal speed level. So going back to the front lane, like the tire had issue. The left tire close to the driver's side had issue. So I was trying to control the car back to the lane, but we were close to the edge of that bridge already. So his efforts, he tried, but couldn't make it, so the car just fell into the hole.
I can't really explain what happened. We suddenly found ourselves going down under the bridge. I survived, but with serious wounds, and I was covered in blood. When I managed to get out, I saw the only woman on our delegation about to be crushed by the vehicle, and I quickly pulled her back. I also helped another person, but at that point, I couldn't do any more. I just laid down and started crying in pain. People came to our rescue, and we are grateful to them. For those who lost their lives, we pray that Almighty Allah grants them eternal peace. Beyond the hospital walls, the trauma extends to families. For Bashir Abubakar, whose brother Nazifi was on board the ill-fated bus, it was a frantic search between hospitals.
Muna cikin haka magana haka shi ga wa'ansu sun ce Nazifi ya mutu amma an kai shi Aminu Kano.
I received a call that my brother was involved in an accident and was believed to have died. I went to Aminu Kano Teaching Hospital but didn't find him there. Finally, I came to this hospital and found him alive, though already stitched up. I called his name Nazifi and he answered. He said he was asleep when it happened. His colleagues told him that the bus hit the embankment in the middle of the road, and they couldn't confirm if it was a steering fault that caused the loss of control. As the survivors begin a long journey to physical and emotional healing, their plea is simple. Remember those who died.
Yes, they should reach out to all the families that they lost their life. They should reach out to them. They should console them. They should help them. Try to take good care of their family for them. Because everybody had to make the sacrifice to go on that journey. Not for ourselves, but for our states and our own particular profit. So government should try to reach out to them to help them.
Whether through better safety measures for athletes or support for victims and their families, these young men and women say they want meaning drawn from their pain and dignity for those lost along the way. Abdulaziz Ibrahim, Trust TV News, Kano.
The Kano state government has officially declared Monday, June 2nd, 2025, as a public holiday to mourn the tragic loss of 22 indigents of the state who died in a fatal road accident. The victims were part of the state contingent returning from the recently concluded National Sports Festival held in Ogun State. The announcement was made in a statement issued by the governor's spokesperson, Sanusi Baturi Dawakin Tofa, who described the incident as a heartbreaking tragedy that has thrown the entire state into mourning. According to the statement, the public holiday is intended to honor the memory of the deceased, show solidarity with their grieving families, and offer the people of Kano an opportunity to reflect on the loss. The state government extended its deepest condolences to the bereaved families and pledged its continued support during this difficult time. It also announced that arrangements are being made to assist the affected families and ensure proper recognition of the victims' contributions to the state's sports development. Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu on Saturday sympathized with the families of the members of the Kano state contingent who died in a road accident while returning from the recently concluded National Sports Festival in Ogun State. In a statement by presidential spokesman Bayo Onanuga, the president extended heartfelt condolences to the government and people of Kano State, as well as to the families and loved ones of those who died in the accident. President Tinubu paid tribute to the accident victims, whose dedication and aspirations in their various vocations embodied the resilient Nigerian spirit. He affirmed that the greatest honor the country can accord them is to take concrete steps to prevent such tragedies in the future and improve safety standards across the nation's transportation systems. The president prayed for the peaceful repose of the souls of the departed and asked God Almighty to grant strength and comfort to the bereaved families. Now, away from that, despite intensified security efforts across Nigeria, insecurity continues to claim lives and displace thousands. Experts say the unwillingness of community members to share information and expose criminal elements in their midst is one of the biggest challenges undermining the fight against insecurity. Trust TV's Ado Musa completes the report.
As killings and displacement continue unabated, the humanitarian toll and rising food insecurity dominate headlines across the country. Yet, behind the statistics lies a more complex dilemma: the silence of those closest to the threat. According to a new investigation by Amnesty International, at least 10,217 people have been killed in armed attacks since the current administration took office. The affected states include Benue, Edo, Katsina, Kebbi, Plateau, Sokoto, and Zamfara. The report indicts Nigerian authorities for failing to uphold the right to life, security, and freedom from harm to tens of thousands of citizens. But retired Police Superintendent Bulus Ajiji says the breakdown in community cooperation is equally to blame. He urges that the reluctance of residents to provide actionable intelligence enables criminal networks to thrive.
The reality is open. Everybody knows. Issue of security is the responsibility of every individual. Failing to give the security information at the time needed to curtail the ugly from the happening met most of the failures. If the public will now realize that security is a responsibility of every individual, the reality is that we will overcome it.
Ajiji further laments that some communities even shield criminals knowingly or unknowingly, sabotaging collective security efforts.
If my son is misbehaving, doing what is contrary, I'm aware, you are aware. I may decide to compromise. He's my son. I will not let the security know. My neighbor child is doing what is wrong. I will not, in fact, I will screen that child from being penalized by the government.
Meanwhile, the humanitarian burden of these attacks continues to mount. Nuruddin Usaini Magaji, Secretary of the Nigerian Red Cross in Plateau State, He explains the emergency protocols they deploy to support displaced persons during and after violent outbreaks.
We always advise for the peace process and peace part among the communities. It is the first stage that can make the communities to live in peace and continue dialogue and continue communicating with each other.
From providing emergency shelter and food to facilitating long-term recovery, Magaji says the goal is to stabilize survivors and help them rebuild.
Then looking at the plight of the people again, there are a need for provision of social amenities in the communities. More especially these issues of they left their homes, they left their everything, and they are now mostly at the IDP camps. So there is need for other partners, government, and everybody to come together and help these people with put and non-put items. Then other issues like reunification of the family links to those that are separated, and there are so many of them that need psychosocial support because of their mental health trauma cases.
But beyond displacement lies another crisis: food insecurity. With thousands of farmers forced off their lands, the agricultural cycle in many communities has been completely disrupted. Ubale Musa, organizing secretary of the National Tomato Growers Association in Plateau, says the crisis has left farms untended, harvest lost, and food supplies strained.
There will be starvation because if there is no food, starvation is necessary, and it will lead to that insecurity that we are talking about. Most of our farmers that normally take farming as a hobby, usually advise government to intervene and provide security to the local farmers for them to farm beautifully well in order to boost the production of the farming system in Nigeria so that there will be availability of food in the whole Nigeria.
As insecurity becomes routine in many parts of Nigeria, experts insist that solving it requires full collaboration between the government, security forces, and ordinary citizens. It is a call to action for communities to break the silence, expose wrongdoers, and reclaim peace. Ado Musa, Trust TV News, Jos.
Still talking security matters as deadly attacks continue to spread across rural communities in Nigeria. Concerns are mounting over a looming humanitarian disaster and worsening food insecurity. In this special report from Benue State, our correspondent captures the growing alarm among experts who say the rising wave of violence highlights the failure of the government's security strategy. They argue that the state is failing in its constitutional duty to protect the lives and rights of its citizens. The report.
A new investigation by Amnesty International has revealed a grim picture. In the 2 years since the current administration assumed power, no fewer than 10,217 people have been killed by armed groups across 7 states of Benue, Edo, Katsina, Kebbi, Plateau, Sokoto, and Zamfara. Benue alone accounts for a staggering 6,896 deaths, the highest in the country. Most of the victims were farmers. Their displacement has led to abandoned farmlands, deepening fears of full-blown food crisis.
If these attacks are not curtailed and our people cannot return, I see Benue State going towards a long period of hunger. That's on one side. I'm saying hunger because most of the people being displaced take to farming as their major source of livelihood. Now, people can no longer farm because they are being killed on their farms and they are running away from the farms. We're facing a food crisis in the nearest future. So I see Benue State going to a point where there will be so much hunger in the land that it will become a problem for us. And then the children that are coming up, we are going to have a group of children who are bitter at the world, bitter at the community, and their mental state is of concern to me because when we're bringing up young people with that state of mind, they are a time bomb waiting to explode. When they now decide to express that anger, will we as a community, as a society, be able to contain it?
Well, it depends on the brief you give to the security agencies. No, they cannot do anything other than the brief they've been given. And if you don't give them sufficient brief, if you don't give them sufficient directives as to what to do, it becomes very difficult, because this is a difficult job. Whichever way you take it, the law will say you have overstepped the limits of the law.
Security experts blame the failure to end the carnage on a lack of political will and the poor coordination between political leaders and the security architecture. They say despite official rhetoric, many rural communities remain ungoverned spaces, vulnerable and unprotected.
This situation, I wholly blame the federal government, because the federal government is in control of security agencies. And you cannot tell me that these people have more weapons than the regimented military. There's no way. So there's no way an individual or a group will buy superior weapons to our military. It is simply the political will.
As a humanitarian, I no longer even understand what political will is. I honestly don't know what the definition of political will is. Because you go on the papers, you go to the papers, you hear one thing being said. But when it comes to actual action on ground, we're not seeing anything being said. I personally feel that if the parties who are involved at all levels, top to bottom, including myself, if all of us will put aside our differences, put aside our personal interests, and look at humanity and how to save humanity from what is happening, we can make progress.
The call is now louder than ever for governments at all levels to act decisively, restore order and protect lives and livelihoods of citizens across the country.
The Emir of Kano, Muhammad Sanusi, has lamented that Nigeria is currently engulfed in a serious insecurity crisis with bandits residing in many communities. Sanusi stated that Nigerians are living alongside bandits and Boko Haram insurgents. He made these remarks during the 60th birthday celebration of former Rivers State Governor Rotimi Amechi in Abuja on Saturday. Sanusi called on those cautioning Nigerians to be careful before entering a crisis to wake up. He also attributed Nigeria's multi-dimensional poverty to the failure of its leaders. The former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria criticized the country's elites for being unaware of the extent of poverty afflicting Nigeria. Now, the Catholic Bishop of Ondo Diocese, Jude Orungundade, has called on President Bola Tinubu to initiate a national dialogue to address the country's security challenges. Orungundade said that he was convinced that the security crisis ravaging the country was due to the failure of political leaders in power to address the grievances of some groups who have decided to make the country ungovernable. He lamented that the people of the country now live in fear, while farmers have abandoned their farmland due to the activities of the armed groups who have taken over rural communities to perpetrate their criminal activities. The Catholic bishop spoke at a church service to mark the 59th World Communications Day held at the Sacred Heart Cathedral in Akure, the state capital, on Sunday. The Catholic bishop also regretted the costly socio-economic impact of the security challenges on the nation. Residents of Maiduguri are calling on the federal government to urgently relocate the Giwa Barracks military facility away from their community, citing repeated insurgent attacks and a recent explosion that rattled the city. The call was made by the Bale Galtimari Consultative Forum during a press briefing in the Borno State capital. For residents of Galtimari, Fori, and 122 communities in Maiduguri, the presence of Giwa Barracks, a military detention facility that once held cause of Boko Haram suspects, has long been a source of anxiety. Their fears were reignited following a recent explosion in the barracks armory that sent shockwaves across the metropolis. The acting chairman of the Bale Galtimari Consultative Forum, Dr. Zana Boguma, said the barracks has historically drawn violent attacks by insurgents, endangering civilians in the surrounding areas.
It is therefore in the interest of public safety and strategic military effectiveness that we call on the following: the federal government of Nigeria, the defense headquarters and the Nigerian Army, the National Security Advisor, the Executive Governor of Borno State, the Borno State House of Assembly to take urgent and practical steps to relocate Giwabara to the outskirts of Maiduguri or to any suitable secure location.
The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, has uncovered a drug syndicate using Hajj pilgrims as cocaine couriers to Saudi Arabia. According to a statement by NDLEA Director, Media and Advocacy, Femi Babafemi, two suspects, Ibrahim Umar Mustafa and Muhammad Siraj Shifado, were arrested at the Kano airport after excreting 90 wraps of cocaine. This led to the arrest of their alleged sponsors, Abubakar Muhammad, Abdul Hakim Muhammad Tijani, and Muhammad Aji Shugaba. In a related operation, a 60-year-old businessman, Chinedu Leonard Okigbo, was intercepted at Kano airport while heading to Iran. He excreted 65 wraps of cocaine weighing 1.41 kilograms during observation. All suspects are in NDLEA custody for further investigation. Meanwhile, NDLEA operatives at One Port in Rivers State seized a large cache of codeine syrup and opiates worth over 9.3 billion naira. The drugs, concealed in 7 containers, included 825,200 bottles of codeine-based syrup and over 5.1 million pills of tapentadol. The Supreme Court and National Judicial Council (NJC) chapters of the Judiciary Staff Union of Nigeria (JUSUN) has announced their withdrawal from the planned industrial action declared by the union. The national headquarters of JUSUN had on Friday declared a strike action and directed its members to down tools beginning from midnight on Sunday. The union said the industrial action became necessary following what it described as unfruitful meetings at the instance of the Minister of Labour and Employment over the demands of the workers. The statement, signed by its General Secretary, MJ Akwashiki, titled Strike Circular and dated May 31st, 2025, listed the demands to include the payment of a wage award spanning 5 months, implementation of the 70,000 naira national minimum wage, as well as the 35% salary increase. However, the Supreme Court chapter, in a statement by its chairman, Nladi Nde, and dated May 31st, 2025, said it could not manage the short notice and decisions reached by the chapters at the lower courts. This is News Hour on Trust TV. Coming up ahead, we'll take a look at why Nigerians in Doha say safety, not wealth, is Qatar's real attraction. This and many more when we return. To stay with us. Welcome back from the break. In case you're just joining, this is News Hour on Trust TV. Let's take a look at our top stories again. Kano accident survivors recount horror journey. And rising violence fuels fears of humanitarian collapse, food crisis. Now moving on to more stories, the Bauchi state government has issued a stern warning to over 100 newly contracted female skilled birth attendants, cautioning them against absenteeism and misconduct as they begin deployment to underserved communities under a strategic healthcare initiative. A deployment targets primary healthcare centers identified through a rigorous gap analysis aimed at bridging critical manpower shortages in maternal and child health across rural areas of the state. Trust TV's Adamu Imam reports.
The warning was issued during an orientation and documentation session for the new health workers drawn from all 20 local government areas. Authorities emphasize that any breach of duty or professional negligence will not be tolerated. The selected participants comprising nurses, community health extension workers, and midwives pledged to serve with dedication and commitment, promising to justify the trust placed in them. Their recruitment falls under the Immunization Plus and Malaria Progress by Accelerating Coverage and Transforming Services Impact Project, a key initiative to improve access to skilled maternal care in hard-to-reach villages.
I want to thank the state government for this opportunity that it provided us as the contracted staff for the impact project, and by God's grace, we're going to do our best to make sure that this is the exactly time that we are waiting for. So we get this appointment and we thank Almighty Allah for this wonderful blessing.
We will also prioritize taking awareness directly to their doorsteps if necessary, because getting people to do the right thing can be challenging. It's important for pregnant women not to wait until delivery. We will continue to encourage them to regularly attend their antenatal care. Speaking at the event, the Commissioner for Health, Dr. Sani Muhammad Dambam, represented by Director of Nursing, Abdulsalam Abubakar Imam, said the state government is working tirelessly to close the human resource gap in the health sector. Dr. Rukaya Ibrahim of the Aliko Dangote School of Nursing and Midwifery and Dr. Adamu Muhammad, Impact Project Manager, both reaffirmed the state's commitment to sustainable healthcare interventions, especially those targeting women and children.
You should bear in mind that you are a special people in the society. Whatever you are doing now, people will be looking at you not as a person, but you are representing the profession. So we are expecting professionalism in all your activities in the health sector.
But you know, all these things will not actually provide the required result if you don't have the human resource. That is why, in order to reach this gap, we have decided to actually engage about 100 midwives, female CHUs, and community midwives.
Dr. Dambam also noted that the state is sustaining policy reforms and funding commitments to strengthen the health system at all levels. Adam Imam, Trust TV News, Bauchi.
And now in Gombe State, local fish sellers are calling on Nigerian youths to embrace fish trading as a sustainable means of livelihood. While highlighting the business's potential for economic empowerment, they also appeal to the government for support to overcome challenges threatening the industry. Trust TV's Hassan Koli reports.
It may not carry the glamour of corporate job, but in Gombe State, fish trading is feeding families and sustaining livelihoods. Local fish sellers say the trade has not only kept money off the street, but can also serve as a powerful tool in fighting unemployment if more youths are willing to embrace it. This business helps us grow from nothing. We can now feed our families and even support others. We urge youth to join us instead of waiting endlessly for white-collar jobs. Beyond advocacy, the sailors say they are ready to mentor interested youths, providing training and guidance on the trade. We are ready to train them, but we need help. There is no capital, no designated space. Government support with land and funding will go a long way. But challenges persist. Many sailors cite limited access to soft loans, inadequate storage facilities, and a lack of designated trading spaces as barriers to scaling of the business. We are like teachers to the younger ones, but we need tools to succeed. Cold rooms, storage units, land for fish farming, and access to soft loans. Despite the odds, these traders remain committed to expanding their impact, hoping their calls for empowerment and infrastructure will be heard. With the right support, they believe the fish trade could serve as a cornerstone of youth empowerment in Gombe and beyond. Hassan Koli, Trust TV News, Gombe.
Now, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has reaffirmed the federal government's commitment to local content, technology transfer and economic empowerment as he commissioned the first phase of the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway alongside other critical road projects. The president also issued a stern warning to developers violating construction laws. The report.
At the event, President Tinubu directed the Minister of Works, David Umahi, and other relevant agencies to enforce strict compliance with laws on local content, skills development, and technology transfer across all federal projects. He declared that the government would no longer pay compensation for developers who flout building regulations, stressing the need to uphold urban planning principles and the rule of law. The president praised engineer Ronald Chagori for his efforts in protecting the Lagos coastline and urged continued private sector collaboration on sustainable infrastructure initiatives.
Let me at this stage warn all developers. The federal government will enforce the setback. If not for anything, it's for the interests of our nation. Development without approval will not be compensated. We have gazetted and published the setback. We are going to enforce it rigidly.
Senate President Godswill Akpabio also assured that the National Assembly remains solidly behind the administration's drive for economic transformation.
Mr. President, we have a president who has both sight and vision. And this, for me, is something I must advise our governors, particularly those of them who are on their second terms. Do not give power to anybody who is not looking for power. Don't give power to anybody who is not prepared. Don't go hiding in your heart that this boy is very subservient. He's always kneeling down when he's talking to me. The wife is always rolling on the floor. I think I should make this one the governor. If you do that, you are giving power to somebody who is not prepared for governance, and they will disappoint you.
Minister of Works David Umahi disclosed that 18 billion naira had already been paid in compensation to those affected by the project. He emphasized that future projects must align with the government's vision for inclusive development and long-term sustainability.
Mr. President, in the process of procurement, not just the coastal roads, in all the roads we have engaged in, and God is my witness, you never gave us words, you never gave us idea, you never nominated a contractor. I take responsibility and I defend every action of Ministry of Works. And I want to congratulate you. I've never seen a leader like you. I've never seen.
The event drew dignitaries from across the country, including state governors, Nobel laureate Wole Soyinka, National Security Advisor Nuhu Ribadu, and major industry players like Aliko Dangote, Abdusamad Rabiu, Tony Elumelu, and the Chagori brothers.
Now, while Doha, the capital of Qatar, continues to make global headlines for its rapid economic transformation, residents say its exceptional level of safety is equally impressive. In this report, Nigerians living in Doha, alongside visiting tourists, highlight how the city's secure environment is not only attracting more migrants, but also boosting Qatar's growing reputation as a prime tourism destination. The report.
Qatar is widely considered one of the safest countries in the world for both residents and visitors, boasting a low crime rate and a secure environment. The country maintains a strong and visible police presence throughout its territory. Suleiman, a Nigerian from Kano State who has been living in Doha for several years, shared his experience as a long-term resident.
Yau kusan shekara 4 kenan Doha ita ce Qatar take daukan na biyu a bangaren tsaro a duk.
Doha offers unmatched security for years. Qatar has ranked among the safest places in the world. You can take a walk with your family even at midnight without fear. It is not uncommon to leave your car unlocked and no one would dare touch it. Misplace your phone or belongings. Chances are you will find them exactly where they fell.
Kuma duk abin da ka tafi ka yadda shi ko a metro ka hau jirgin kasa ka yadda abinka to insha Allah in ka koma metro za ka same shi.
Qatar's electricity generation capacity is substantial with an installed capacity of 10,640 megawatt in 2018 and 10,600 megawatt in 2021. In 2023, the country's thermal plant generated 10,586 megawatt, in addition to 800 MWDC from renewable sources like the Al-Qarsa solar plant. Major facilities such as Ras Girtas 2,730 megawatt and Ras Lafan B 1,025 megawatt significantly contributed to this capacity.
A gaskiya Doha akwai wuta. In fact, Doha
And when it comes to power supply, Doha delivers. Qatar generates more electricity than it consumes, ensuring round-the-clock supply across the city. No outages, no interruptions, just consistent, reliable energy.
Mutanen Qatar su amfani da shi.
Qatar invested an estimated $220 billion in hosting the 2022 FIFA World Cup. Years after the tournament, those world-class facilities are still well-maintained and actively used.
I was here during the World Cup in 2022. We saw the beautiful facilities they have here all over Doha. And what came to my mind then was that, wow, these guys have done so well for their country. Now they are hosting the first country in the Arab world to host a World Cup. When they finish hosting the World Cup, what are they going to be doing with these facilities? But surprisingly, I was not really surprised when I started seeing Qatar hosting events. The Diamond League is the host here. Now we are here for the World Table 2025 World Table ITTF.
So it's a beautiful experience. It's a wonderful experience. I mean, right from the start, you've seen the history of this country, where it has come from and where it is right now, and how its future looks like.
Look at Qatar. Wonderful. We are touring together. Beautiful places, skyscrapers, beautiful. They hosted the World Cup. And it's been the best World Cup ever in 2022.
I'm living in Qatar since 2010. Now it's almost 15 years I'm working here in Qatar as a tour guide. And frankly speaking, it's a very nice country. It's a very peaceful country. Kindly don't hesitate to come to visit Qatar. Qatar is considered like one of the safest countries in all over the world.
Doha boasts a wide range of tourist attractions, including the Qatar Twin Towers, Pearl Island, Old Doha Port, the National Museum of Qatar, the Museum of Islamic Art, Lusail Sports Arena, and the famous Souk Waqif Market, among others. In 2024, Qatar's tourism industry contributed 55 billion Qatari riyals, equivalent to approximately $15 billion to the country's GDP.
People from different parts of the world visit Doha to explore and experience the cultural heritage of Qatar. From Doha in Qatar, Bello Musa reporting for Trust TV News.
In other news, it was a grand celebration in Ganye, headquarters of the Chamba Chiefdom in Adamawa State, as dignitaries from across and beyond Nigeria gathered to honor the Gangwari Ganye Umaru Adamu Sanda on his 25th anniversary as traditional ruler. Trust TV's Gibson Sowadigo completes the report.
The rhythms, colors and grace of Chamba tradition were on full display as the people of Adamawa and Taraba states came together to celebrate a legacy rooted in history, unity and culture. Ganye, the heart of Chamba heritage and the food basket of Adamawa, wore a festive look as it hosted the silver jubilee of its revered monarch, Gangwari Ganye, Alaji Dr. Adamu Umaru Sanda. It was 25 years ago that the paramount ruler was elected by the kingmakers and ascended the throne, a role he has carried with dignity and dedication. On Saturday, Governor Ahmadu Barufintri, former Defense Minister General T.Y. Danjuma, and a host of well-wishers, including traditional rulers, government officials, and residents, joined in celebrating the milestone. Governor Fintri praised the monarch for his unwavering commitment to peace, culture, and development in the region.
As we celebrate, I urge the younger generation to draw inspiration from your integrity, humility, dedication, and desire for progress. Let this anniversary be a call to unity, mutual respect, and continued cooperation for the growth of Ganye and Adamawa State at large.
In his remarks, the Gangwari Ganye thanked his people for their support and reaffirmed his resolve to continue promoting harmony and preserving tradition in the chiefdom.
We have nothing to say rather than to thank the Almighty God. May is a special date for me, our late father. I was born on 15 May 1955. I was presented with the staff of office on the 13th of May. And my late father was given appointment letter to be the chief of Ganye on 15 May. So that's why I chose this month to celebrate of my 25 years on the throne.
For many, the 25-year reign of the Gangwari Ganye has ushered in an era of stability, unity, and transformation across the chiefdom.
We also appreciate the contributions of distinguished members of the Adamawa State Executive Council, current and former members of the National Assembly.
So we thank him for that, for making a peaceful room for everybody.
So far so good that I've been serving in this land. It has been a peaceful land. Like we've enjoyed security, there is peace. I've not experienced any discrimination from the indigents or anything else. Like it has been so amazing.
Highlighting the day's significance, the Gangwari Ganye conferred the prestigious title of Gangpang Ganye on retired General T.Y. Danjuma, who chaired the occasion. The monarch's journey to the throne began with his election on April 7, 1999. He was formally installed with a second-class title in 2000, later elevated to a first-class status in December 2004. Gibson Soadugu, Trust TV News, Yola.
Now, King Bubaraye Dakolo of Ekpetiama Kingdom in Bayelsa State has called for swift and decisive action to halt the worsening environmental crisis in the Niger Delta. The monarch made the appeal during a book reading event organized by the Health of Mother Earth Foundation in Benin City. The report.
At the event, King Bubaraye Dakolo described the Niger Delta as a region under siege
grappling with what he termed ecocide. He cited decades of unchecked pollution, gas flaring, and environmental degradation, accusing oil companies and weak regulatory enforcement of deepening the crisis.
If there were petroleum products available everywhere, in Benin, for instance, will anybody buy adulterated petroleum products? The answer is obvious. So if the federal government has worked towards making sure that quality petroleum products, with the right octane number, were available everywhere in Nigeria, then nobody will have gone to bother himself with distilling crude oil where he dies every day, every now and then.
Drawing from his published works, the monarch spoke passionately about how literature can expose the harsh realities of environmental injustice and political betrayal in oil-rich region. He urged citizens to rise and reclaim their land, lives, and dignity. In his remarks, Bassi, Executive Director of OMF, echoed the King's concerns linking ecological damage to poor health outcomes and Nigeria's shrinking life expectancy.
The problem is about the environment, primarily. If you don't have a safe environment, you can't have elders. You have young people acting as elders. If you don't have a safe environment, you can't even have democracy. You can't have politics that really cares about the life of the people. Everything will just be touch and go. Our book and culture series is so critical to raise our consciousness and to wake us up to the fact that a lot of what we ought to do has already been documented, either written or orally.
Bassi emphasized the role of storytelling in environmental advocacy, calling on Nigerians to raise their voices against ongoing destructions of their natural heritage. The event ended with a resounding call for collective responsibility and urgent action to salvage the Niger Delta's future.
In other news, the Nigeria Customs Service said it will commence profiling fuel stations along the border stations as part of efforts to curb the smuggling of premium motor spirit, popularly known as petrol. This is even as the service also seized 1,577 jerry cans of petrol, 25 liters each, amounting to 39,425 liters, and arrested 4 suspected smugglers. The Comptroller General of Customs, Adewale Adeniyi, disclosed this while showcasing some seized PMS products at the Training College Federal Operations Unit Zone A Ikeja on Friday. The CG, who was represented at the event by the National Coordinator of Operation Whirlwind, Hussein Ejibunu, said that the essence of profiling the filling stations around the borders is to dictate moribund and active fuel stations to identify the ones used for smuggling. According to him, fuel stations found wanting will be reported to the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, NMDRA, for necessary actions. Away from Nigeria, Gabon is set to stop exporting raw manganese by 2029 as part of a national strategy to boost local industry and reduce dependency on unprocessed resource exports. The government announced the move as part of efforts to transform its economy. Manganese, alongside oil and timber, is one of Gabon's top revenue sources. The country is currently the world's second-largest producer of the mineral. By halting raw exports, Gabon aims to develop its domestic processing capacity, create skilled jobs, and retain more value from its natural resources. The death toll from a rock fall at a limestone quarry on Indonesia's Java Island rose to 18 on Sunday, with another 7 people still missing and feared dead. A military official said workers and heavy equipment were buried when rocks suddenly fell at the mining site in the city of Cirebon in West Java province on Friday morning. The rockfall also injured at least 12 people. Local military chief Muhammad Yusrin said rescuers have deployed excavators and rescue dogs to search for the remaining victims. He said the search operation was challenging and dangerous due to the unstable structures of the rock. Now, flash floods and landslides after torrential monsoon rain over the last 2 days have killed at least 30 people in India's northeast. The state disaster management officials said 8 people died in Assam and 9 in Arunachal Pradesh, many of them in landslides as earth loosened by the water slumped into the valley below. Authorities said another 5 people died in a landslide in the neighboring state of Mizoram. The officials said that 6 people lost their lives in Meghalaya and at least 2 others were killed in the states of Nagaland and Tripura. A red alert warning was issued for several districts in the region after the non-stop downpour over the last 3 days. Now, Hamas is seeking amendment to the latest U.S. ceasefire proposal to Gaza. A senior official with the group said Palestinians in the Gaza Strip also expressed hope the war will soon stop. The Hamas official, speaking on condition of anonymity due to the sensitivity of the talks, said proposed amendments focus on the U.S., guarantees the timing of hostage release, a delivery of aid, and the withdrawal of Israeli forces. A separate Hamas statement said the proposal aimed for a permanent ceasefire, a comprehensive Israeli withdrawal from Gaza, and an ensured flow of aid. It added that 10 living hostages and the bodies of 18 others would be released in exchange for an agreed-upon number of Palestinian prisoners. Israeli forces have approved the U.S. proposal for a temporary ceasefire in the nearly 20-month war. And now in sports, Executive Chairman of the Nigeria Premier Football League, NPFL, Benga Elegbeleye, said that the 10 home-based players included in the Super Eagles head coach Eric Chell's squad for the recently concluded Unity Cup tournament at the Brentford Stadium, West London, proved to be good ambassadors of the league. Elegbeleye, who spoke on Sunday against the backdrop of the NPFL players' inclusion and contribution to the Super Eagles title success in the Fourth Nation tournament held in the United Kingdom. Junior Harrison Nduka and Ismaila Sadiq, both of Remo Stars, Ifeanyi Onyebuchi of Rangers, and Waliu Ojetoye of Ikorodu City were the NPFL defenders that Coach Chell took to London. Also included were Saviour Isaac and Collis Ugueze, both of Rangers, and Papa Daniel Mustafa of Niger Tornadoes as midfielders, while former Super Eagles captain Ahmed Musa of Kano Pillars and Plateau United's Adamu Abubakar were the NPFL strikers in Chell's squad. NPFL Executive Chairman praises performances of home-based players. And with that, we wrap up News Hour on Trust TV. Do not forget to follow us across all social media platforms for more programs, news, and documentaries. I am Dorcas Yakubuzala. Good night.